From obliterating a racist guest,
The only person you will ever make happy is the Mexican who digs your grave.
to humbling a fellow comedian.
Going after my religion, you piece of
Here are 10 times comedians shut down disrespectful guests. Starting with Conan O'Brien, who turned the tables on Jennifer Garner when she tried to correct him on his grammar.
But there's a time when you snuck into the room to see what the...
I sneaked into the room. Snuck isn't a word, Conan. And you went to Harvard and you should know that.
You should know I went to the Harvard driving school, by the way. They didn't teach me much there. But I can parallel park, like a bastard.
While it seemed like Conan let it slide, he schooled Jennifer later.
I keep a dictionary down here and I just found it. Just want to look at... Oh, what the hell? Look right here. Snuck, past and past part of sneak.
Conan isn't the only late-night host to call out someone on live TV, because Jimmy Kimmel also called out a striking celebrity in his Oscars speech.
We want you to have fun, we want you to feel safe, and most importantly, we want me to feel safe. So we have strict policies in place. If anyone in this theater commits an act of violence at any point during the show, you will be awarded the Oscar for Best Actor and permitted to give a 19-minute long speech.
Not stopping at Will Smith, Jimmy also exposed Hollywood's hypocrites.
No, but seriously, the Academy has a crisis team in place. If anything unpredictable or violent happens during the ceremony, just do what you did last year. Nothing. Sit there and do absolutely nothing. Maybe even give the assailant a hug.
While Jimmy owned Will Smith for his physical assault, Ann Coulter earned her humiliation for her verbal offenses.
You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. Oh, and I agreed with many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you. Because you're an Indian.
And after getting invited to the Comedy Central special Roast of Rob Lowe, David Spade showed her exactly what he thought of her.
Is Pete white? Is he black? Ann Coulter needs to know if she can decide if she hates him. She seems stiff and conservative, but Ann gets wild in the sheets. Just ask the Klan. Looks like she's having a good time. I haven't seen you laugh this hard since Trayvon Martin got shot.
Followed by Pete Davidson.
You know, Ann describes herself as a polemicist, but most people call her a Ann Coulter, if you're here, who's scaring the crows away from our crops?
And then came Jimmy Carr's turn.
Ann Coulter looks so much like a truck stop transvestite that I saw Jeff Ross run to an ATM just before the show. Ann Coulter is one of the most repugnant, hateful, hatchet-faced alive. But it's not too late to change, Ann. You could yourself.
But surprisingly, the star of the show was Nikki Glazer's punny and devastating jokes.
And without further ado, Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter has written 11 books, 12 if you count Mein Kampf. Ann's been called things like a racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, a white supremacist, and that's just while getting plowed by Bill Maher.
And before she left, Nikki made sure to put the final nail in Ann's coffin.
The only person you will ever make happy is the Mexican who digs your grave.
Just like all the comedians didn't hold back roasting Ann, Bill Burr didn't hold back in calling out Jim Gaffigan after inviting him on his podcast.
Was your dad fat? Was your mom fat? No. Genetically, you're thin.
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't even know what you're talking about.
It is.
Listen.
Yeah.
All of you guys do that shit.
What's that?
You guys who are out of shape see someone who's in better shape and go, oh, dude, yeah, you can... Women do that.
And Bill wasn't in a mood to pull his punches.
Here, I'm going to pull it up. here.
Oh, dude, those
nerd,
things.
Nerd.
All these things like, oh, look at my watch said I took 10,000 steps
My watch
today.
said I did. My watch said I did. Look at this.
Look at those sneakers. You don't work out.
What are they?
Look at those.
But even as they were about to finish, Bill didn't ease off.
First of all, what really counts is who's scarier. Dude, there's no way I'd ever let you get those farm hands on me.
I think we both love acting.
Yeah, we do. It would have been nice if you found common ground earlier in this episode instead of attacking
See,
me.
now
going after my religion, you piece of shit. Are you Protestant? I'll bury you behind that sign if I find out you're Protestant.
And while Jim was arguably an easy target, Bill didn't hold back any jokes on a celebrity who used to KO people in a single hit.
Bill Burr, comedian, baby. made headlines in October 2000 and 2000 after controversial monologue. You know, I don't know
2000 and 2000, Mike, that's 2020.
Nigga, listen,
Those
man.
Brownsville schools, man.
But it wasn't only Mike who got caught in Bill's jokes.
What's the best part about mushrooms, Mike,
Huh?
for you? The best part, the best feeling on mushrooms?
Not being badgered with questions as you enjoy the high.
And even as the podcast came to an end, Bill just couldn't help himself.
You know how up this is? He's shrooming, and he's wearing pants like he went riding a horse today. Like side saddle or some Now, what is it about that you like?
Huh?
Does it fit your junk better than
yeah,
Yves Saint
that
Laurent?
too. It was made for me. It was made for me, yeah.
While Bill was just busting Mike's balls, Shane Gillis was forced to go all out with his roast on Tony Hinchcliffe during Skankfest South.
Tony's father was a mafioso and his mother was the head he woke up next to.
It all started when Tony was roasting Shane during his segment.
Shane Gillis is here. He had to take some time away from his day job playing the son on the Teletubbies. I'm kidding. Shane's not a retarded baby. America loves and accepts retarded babies. Shane's more like the opiate crisis, largely ignored but tolerated because he keeps hillbillies entertained and only kills in the Midwest.
But he didn't stop at insulting Shane's IQ.
Sorry you didn't get SNL, Shane. You deserve the privilege of reading stolen tweets off of cue cards in between Arby's commercials. Shane's banned for life from SNL, joining the ranks of Adrian Brody, Sinead O'Connor, and Good Jokes.
But then, it was Shane's turn.
Tony looks like Matthew McConaughey's skeleton. I don't have a joke for this, but something about Tony being young Sheldon. You say bazinga every time he makes one of his gay jokes?
Little did Tony know, that was just the start of it.
Tony, for real, thought he was going to be the Joker. You ever see the movie The Joker? It was a dream of his. He does the laugh sometimes in front of his friends. And they told me this when he wasn't around, and they all make fun of him behind his back. Isn't that funny? As soon as he left the room, they were all like, dude, he keeps going. Isn't it such an embarrassing dream to have?
For his final roast, Shane dropped Tony with back-to-back bombs.
Tony also, I believe, had a Corvette with a license plate that said, I roast. Is that true? Damn, that sucks. Tony's father was a mafioso, and his mother was the head he woke up next to.
While Shane was just joking around, Joe Rogan was completely serious when he humiliated this next guest for his controversial takes.
You're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body.
It all started when Adam Conover came on JRE and started indirectly arguing in favor of trans athletes in normal sports.
We could sit here and talk for 3 hours about like all the different ways that hormones might affect your body and might not affect your body. And I'm not an expert on that, and I don't want to claim to be, right? But a sports with trans athletes who are, competing with with their gender, right? That is a sporting world that I'm more interested in.
But Joe Rogan dismantled Adam's entire argument in seconds.
There's a reason why we make the distinction to have male athletics versus female athletics. The reason is that males have a physiological advantage over women. So in most sports, most physical sports, we do not have males compete with females.
And Joe kept empirically dunking on Adams.
Well, the evidence in competition seems to be that it shows that it does apply, particularly in weightlifting, rugby, mountain biking, power heavy sports that favor larger people, stronger bodies, males that transition to females have a significant advantage in their breaking world records.
But Adams' takes only got more absurd when he showed support for child trans surgery, citing his friend's example.
He's explained that my child from a very young age consistently said, I am a girl, and has never contradicted themselves, never changed their mind. And so the humane thing and the thing that he felt was good to do as a parent was to embrace that choice on his child's part, right?
Leading Joe to quickly put him to shame again.
You're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
Joe is not the only comedian who destroyed the woke agenda, because Piers Morgan also did the same on live TV.
You know what, Riz? For a bright young woman who's getting a very good, expensive education, you do behave like a complete foul-mouthed idiot. You don't do yourself any favours. Why do you think coming on a show like this and just repeatedly using the F word, why do you think that makes you look any better?
Before that happened, Piers was interviewing a woke activist regarding the recent vandalism of an anti-oil group.
Riz, you supported Just Stop Oil. No one at Wimbledon today supports Just Stop Oil. They just think you're a bunch of idiots. I know you weren't there today. You were shouting at the Royals up in Scotland. Why do you support this kind of protest that we're seeing at all these sporting events?
But instead of taking accountability, the activist kept expressing her agenda.
I'd like to talk about coronation because it's but to respond to that question, we're in a climate crisis. It's horrifying. I'm terrified for my future, and Just Stop Oil are one of the only groups of people at the moment who are doing anything about that.
Prompting Piers to school her.
I'd like to focus on what's just happened because it's indicative of a summer of protest by people who think they can convert people to their cause. Even if people are inclined to do so, we're now at a point where you can tell from the audience reactions at these events, they literally want to garrote them. And what worries me is it is going to lead to bad situations if this carries on.
But when met with logic, the activist only did what she does best.
Sorry, that's stupid. Sorry, I
you don't have to keep swearing, Riz, with respect.
Do you want to talk about the protest?
Riz,
yeah,
you don't have to keep swearing.
And despite the foul language, Piers didn't stop educating her.
I believe in peaceful protest. I don't believe in wrecking ordinary people's lives as they're going to work, as they're going to hospital, as they, on some occasions, going to funerals. I don't think that when they pay for sporting events that they maybe save money for all year long.
That's fine,
they should have
neither
those,
Republic
they should have
or no
those
more
ruined.
But when the activist didn't stop swearing, Piers finally buried her 6 feet deep.
The king, feed the hungry, because that's what we want to talk about, right?
You know what?
This
you know
is
what, Riz? For a
outrageous. They've done this.
You know what, Riz? For a bright young woman who's getting a very good, expensive education, you do behave like a complete foul-mouthed idiot. You don't do yourself any favours. Why do you think coming on a show like this and just repeatedly using the F word, why do you think that makes you look any better?
Just like Piers kept clowning on the activist for her foul mouth, Tim Dillon kept roasting Whitney Cummings for her obnoxious behavior.
Whitney hit us up. She was like, yo, you need peptides. You and Leanne need peptides. Right. I got you the guy. I'm sending, they're going to your house.
Whitney's famous for you wake up and then she's put you in a group text with Michael Jackson's doctor. He's like, yeah, this guy's a good guy. He's got a lot of different stuff you should try.
On top of that, Tim also threw shade at Whitney's drug addiction past.
I think we should do a podcast where I'm actually on these drugs so you guys can see like the difference.
Right.
And see that my personality is just this bad.
No, it's your 3-minute denial of it makes us all feel comfortable.
Following it with a mimicry that mocked Whitney's entire online persona.
I'll be Whitney, we're the guy,
Okay.
you start, ready?
I'm going to be Bert on a date with Whitney.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I heard this restaurant.
Here's 5 things you need to do immediately right now, okay? Right now, I want you to go on your Instagram page right now, okay?
Okay.
This is what you need to do because we're building brands. The whole thing is about cross-promotion.
But Tim wasn't finished putting Whitney on blast.
So she does that, and then what a guy does is it falls off, and he starts stepping on it with his foot and grinding it into the floor of the restaurant, and then he inserts it into his...
While Whitney didn't see her insults coming, Bobby Lee saw his roasts coming from a mile when he set himself up for them with nonsense statements.
I grew up in San Diego, so obviously, I grew up in the middle class area, right? With tennis courts and stuff like that, right? And surfing, brah, and all that stuff, brah, brah. But if I grew up in an area where I had to be hardened, oh, brah, I'll be hard.
But you didn't. But you didn't. You didn't.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying.
We're talking about you right now.
And Andrew Santino immediately called out the stupidity of Bobby's statement.
Yeah, and if I was black, I'd be in the NBA. What does that even mean? You're just making up.
Later, Andrew Schultz asked Santino and Bobby to do a skit.
That's your son, okay? Needs a heart transplant. There's no donor. And you realize there's only one heart that can go in your son's chest.
Little did Bobby know that Santino was setting him up.
My son, I love you so much. And I gotta tell you, the only heart that you can have is mine.
Thank you, Daddy.
But I'm not gonna give it to you. What the Because there's so many other Koreans I can buy. Goodbye, my son.
Bobby's greatest humiliation, however, was when everyone came together to set one of the best jokes in Flagrant's history.
What do you think love is, Bobby?
This is what addiction does.
Is that why you stayed in that relationship so long?
You got up like a transformer.
Bobby's the only transformer that's more dangerous as a car, though.
Showing that no disrespectful person is ever safe from a comedian's brutal shutdowns.